Let me share that. Give me 17 seconds now. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Oh, just one moment. It won't let me switch. Oh, you can't. While you're. What am I about? It's taking its time. Oh, give me 17 seconds. Almost there. Almost there. I think we're there. Five, four, three, two, and oh, which one is it? Is it this one? I don't know. This is. Oh, hold on. Let me click on that one and see what they say. Sorry, family. Is it? Oh, it's there. We go. How about this one? If you got there you go. Yeah, whatever. Just do it. Whatever. Here you go. Whatever. Boom, boom, boom. Nice. All right, that's all good. Excellent. Cool. Where are we today? All right. All right. Yes. Welcome everyone. I'm just pressing the share button. I think it's that one. It is. So welcome to the 128th show. Those who are tuning in, those who catch us in the future time recording, those who are in here now live. That being broadcast, show 124. Now, we start how we always have started, so let's have a nice good read. When it comes to working as a collective with only Black people on matters that benefit Black issues, Black progression, and Black ownership, Black people are collectively inadequate, very undeveloped that these kind of things, so we need to work on that. Individually, you might find a non-Black person who shows some kind of camaraderie towards Black people. However, collectively, Black people have no friends. Please remember that. We're going to unpack that today. That's what we're going to do. Very important quote. And also, most importantly, constructive Black man with constructive Black woman makes a constructive Black family. Three starting statements that can make helping Black people very easy if you understand them, and it also keeps you on track. Don't forget that. Oh, yeah. Excellent. Fantastic. So we can go past there. Now, the 4D values. What are the 4D values? Well, let's unpack those. Discipline, dignity, dedication, and discernment. There you go. So when you try to work with Black people to be constructive and find solutions, please don't forget to use these. Please don't use derogatory terms, especially when we send out the link. We want to be constructive as possible, so try to use descriptive terms, not derogatory terms. All right. So what is Black Betterment? I'll tell you, it's Black people helping Black people on Black issues for betterment. That's what it is. That is what it is. Oh, there you go. So let's not forget that, please. So Black Betterment is a lifestyle. That's right. Black Betterment is a lifestyle. All right. So we promote the lifestyle of Black Betterment on this broadcast. And hopefully, if you enjoy it and it makes sense and it's constructive, you can set up your own broadcasts and other events and all that good stuff to promote the lifestyle of Black Betterment. Because if you don't do it, it won't be done. That's right. All right. All right. So, little disclaimer: we will be showing one or two videos of other people's content, and we'll be, it's for copyright. It's not for copyright infringement purposes. It's for what is it? What do we call it? Reporting, scholarship, and research. There you go. So just so you know, we will let you know where it's from. Generally, please follow Black Betterment Broadcast, the actual Instagram. I'll put that in the link. There you go. So feel free to follow that. Wah. Let me just check that. Hold on, 17 seconds. Yep, it looks like it's working, which is good. So the link works. Sometimes it takes so long to thing. Let me get the thing ready so I can post something else. Excellent, cool. So what are we doing today? Oh, today we have a very important task. Make sure that's muted. No, wrong one. That's the wrong one, my friend. Going there. So what did I post? I posted the Black. Yeah, it is right. I thought I was going mad. Right, cool. So what do? We remember Martin Delany, very important. One of the first, if not the first, I guess, Pan-Africanist, a Black nationalist. Very important. So that's good. We also, how can the statement, very important now, listen, how can the statement, collectively Black people have no friends, be helpful to Black people? We're going to unpack that today because it's very important. Very important. And can the phrase, how does this help Black people collectively, be helpful to Black people collectively? Going to unpack that as well. Just testing. Hold on. Sometimes it's hard to know if something's working. All right. Yep. Cool. So we're just gonna test that works. Excellent. So now, what should we start with? Oh no, let's not go there. What we're gonna do, while I sort some things out here to get ready for the next presentation, I'm gonna play you just a small 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 2, 4 minute clip of Martin Delany. Just so if you don't know who he is, you get intro. I won't play all of it. We'll also promote the guy who did the video on it, brother. I think it was. Let's see if we can. Where's the video? All right, here it is. Nice. Is it this one? Or is it this one? There we go. There's a listen, and then was to get drips, and then your own time, do more research, and then we'll jump on to the topic at hand. There you go.
Martin Delany, though little known to the world today, is a towering figure in American history.
That's right.
In addition to being an abolitionist whose life was consumed with efforts to end slavery, Delany was also an author, newspaper editor, physician, and the first black field officer in the Union Army.
Very talented.
He was also among the first 3 black men to enter Harvard Medical School. A friend of fellow abolitionist Frederick Douglass, Delany succeeded where Douglass had failed. Douglass had approached President Abraham Lincoln with a proposal to use black troops in the war against the South, with the idea that he would lead them into battle. Lincoln turned him down. But as the Civil War progressed, Lincoln's views on the recruitment of black soldiers shifted. By 1863, Martin Delany was recruiting black men across New England to serve in the newly formed and segregated 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment. 2 years later, he persuaded the president to commission black officers to lead black troops into battle. To that end, Delany was commissioned as a major. Let's dive into his story. Martin Delany, the father of black nationalism. Written and narrated by Daniel J. Middleton. Martin Robinson Delany was born a free man in Charlestown, Virginia, now West Virginia, on May 6, 1812. His father, Samuel Delany, was a slave whose trade was carpentry, but his mother, Patty Peace, was a free woman who worked as a seamstress. In 1867, Delany recounted his life story to author Francis A. Rollin for a planned biography. The book that emerged was Life and Public Services of Martin R. Delany. In it, Rollin reports that all of Delany's grandparents were Africans, a fact he was extremely proud of. Delany's grandparents on his father's side were pure Gola, a people who inhabited what is Liberia today. Captured in warfare, they were shipped to the Virginia colony as slaves, but his grandfather, who was reportedly a former village chieftain, escaped to Canada for a time. His grandparents on his mother's side were reportedly Mandingo, whom the author says were nicknamed the Jews of Africa. Delany's paternal grandfather was reportedly a prince among them. His name was Shango, and he was also captured during tribal warfare and sent to America with Gracie, his betrothed. But Francis A. Rollin reports, Shango, at an early period of his servitude in America, regained his liberty and returned to Africa. Gracie, on the other hand, remained stateside after being granted the same freedom, and she lived with her daughter Patty until her death at the age of 107. Given his deep-rooted African heritage, Delany longed to return to his ancestral homeland. He would not see the continent until he reached manhood. As a young boy, he enjoyed the protection and nurturing of his mother, Patty. When attempts were made to enslave both Delany and a sibling, Patty hauled the 2 children to a courthouse 20 miles away in Winchester, where she successfully argued for their freedom on the grounds of her own, seeing she was born a free woman. Patty also taught her children to read and write using the New York Primer and Spelling Book, which they received from a peddler. But this practice was against Virginia law at the time, as blacks were not allowed to receive education.
Very important. It's very important when you listen to like some of the historical novels, narrations, and scripts and stuff of black people, African descendants in the Americas. You see this consistent thing of forbidding and outlawing black people learning. You see, so it's always remember that learning was seen as a dangerous weapon and not to do. And obviously, you learn stuff, you can do stuff. So you have to, remember that if that was an issue, then that's something we should be doing now. Definitely learning. Just something to think about.
When it was discovered that Patty had been teaching her children to read, she was issued a summons to appear in court. She knew that this would result in a severe penalty, as it was a crime for which even a white woman, Connecticut teacher Prudence Crandall, was arrested and jailed. Patty was persecuted by white Virginians for the offense, but one kind banker, Randall Brown, offered her good advice. He told her to leave town. In September of 1822, Patty did just that. She packed up her belongings and, with her children in tow, gave the false impression that she was leaving Charlestown for Martinsburg, Pennsylvania, but instead headed to Chambersburg, located about 50 miles farther north.
So we're listening to, we're remembering Martin Delany, just saying a little intro of him. We'll watch a few minutes of this, then we'll jump to the topic at hand.
The free state of Pennsylvania allowed Patty to teach her children in peace, and she even sent them to school. She remained in Chambersburg for 15 years, and it was there that her husband, Samuel, reunited with the family once he bought his freedom. While in Chambersburg, Delany continued to study, but as he grew older, his parents could not afford to continue sending him to school, so he went away on occasion to find work. The longest and most arduous of his journeys, and the one for which he sought special permission from his parents, took him 160 miles to Pittsburgh in 1831.
So this is, I think, 7 minutes. So we'll watch the full 7 minutes of this, and then we'll go to the other show.
He started out on July 29th, traveling on foot with little to no money. When he crossed the 3 grand ranges of the Alleghenies, he reached the small frontier town of Bedford.
Also, big up, I can't see it. It looks like unique color. It's been blocked on my screen. Oh, I can't, it looks like color. Let me make it big. Hold on. Coloring, yeah. Sorry, I had to make it big on my screen. It's terrible. Unique coloring. I'll promote his page afterwards.
The edge of the wilderness, where he found employment. Delany remained in the town for a month before moving on. He kept his eyes fixed on Pittsburgh, in which city the foundation of his fame afterwards rested, wrote his biographer Francis A. Rowland. Once in Pittsburgh, he worked as a laborer and barber to earn enough to live on and continue his studies. He eventually enrolled as a student of Reverend Lewis Woodson, a black separatist who operated a school for blacks in Bethel AME Church. The church was also the setting where Delany and community leaders like John B. Vashon and others held literary and political discussions. Of this, Robert S. Levine, author of Martin R. Delany, A Documentary Reader, writes, "From those discussions emerged the African Education Society, which proclaimed in its constitution that ignorance is the sole cause of the present degradation and bondage of the people of color in these United States, that the intellectual capacity of the black man is equal to that of the white, and that he is equally susceptible of improvement." Later, Delany attended Jefferson College, where he studied Latin, Greek, and the classics. In 1833, during a severe cholera epidemic that swept through Pittsburgh, Delany learned medicine as an apprentice to several abolitionist doctors, whom he served by cupping and leeching patients. This was a primary technique for treating diseases at the time. It was in this period that Delany also engaged in abolitionist activities. In addition to aiding in the formation of the Pittsburgh Anti-Slavery Society, he was secretary to the executive of the Philanthropic Society, which was merely a covert organization that rescued, protected, and transported fugitive slaves through Pittsburgh. But Delany...
We're watching, we remember Martin Delany. We're going to watch 4 more minutes of this, and then we're going to jump onto the topic. How can the statement, collectively black people have no friends, be helpful to black people? And also, can the phrase, how does this help black people collectively, be helpful to black people collectively? Love collectively in there, very important.
He made no secret of his other abolitionist efforts. The Colored American, the most influential black newspaper in circulation in that period, ran notices that detailed Delany's activities. And with the knowledge he gained as an apprentice to various local physicians, Delany opened his own office and became a private cupper and leecher. Money earned from this medical venture financed his abolitionist efforts and helped to establish him as a civil rights leader. In August of 1841, Delany attended the state convention of the Colored Freemen of Pennsylvania, which he helped organize. During the convention, the black delegates unanimously approved Resolution 11, which called for the creation of a newspaper run by blacks and completely devoted to the issues of black people. After waiting 2 years for such a paper to materialize, Delany took matters into his own hands. He began publishing a 4-page paper called The Mystery in September 1843. The paper, which Delany wrote and edited, centered on anti-slavery issues and the advancement of blacks.
All right. Very good.
In it, he ran letters and editorials and announced various events and meetings taking place in the area. He also ran advertisements for black Pittsburgh laborers and business owners. Delany met Catherine A. Richards while living in Pittsburgh, and they were married in 1843, the year he launched his paper. Catherine's father was a successful food provisioner who was said to be wealthy. In time, the couple had 11 children, but only 7 survived to adulthood. During the 5 years he ran his paper, Delany kept writing and publishing, but his anti-slavery coverage eventually landed him in trouble. In 1846, he was sued for libel by Thomas Fiddler Johnson, a black man he accused of being a slave catcher. A white jury found Delany guilty, but the heavy fine he incurred was later remitted by the governor. Following the lawsuit, Delany sold his interest in the paper, which was renamed the Christian Recorder, but he did not quit the newspaper business altogether. His success with The Mystery led to another publication.
All right.
Frederick Douglass traveled to Pittsburgh in 1847.
Frederick Douglass will be covering him soon as well.
On an anti-slavery tour. Accompanying him was William Lloyd Garrison, a white abolitionist, journalist, and editor who often reprinted Delany's articles in his own paper, The Liberator. Delany joined forces with Douglass and Garrison, with whom Douglass later broke off his friendship, and together they launched a new 4-page paper called The North Star. It enjoyed a circulation of 4,000, with subscribers in the United States, Europe, and the West Indies. In fact, it became the most influential black anti-slavery newspaper of the pre-Civil War period. Named for the North Star seen in the night sky, which runaway slaves used as a guide to make their way to freedom, the paper was co-edited by Douglass and Delany and was published in Rochester, New York. While the two did not always agree, both men personally financed the paper for a time, until their resources were drained.
All right, we'll stop it there. So we just posted a Wikipedia link to the North Star. Well done. We might play the rest of that a bit later. Then again, we might not. Depends on time. I mean, this show might be very short. It might be like a half an hour to 40 minutes. It depends if people jump in. If not, that's right. I've got some work tomorrow. But oh, that's good. Cool. So what we're gonna do now? We're gonna go through that. No, switch that. Switch back. There it is. So we'll come back to it maybe at the end. Right. So, how can the statement collectively black people have no friends be helpful to black people? Well, that's the thing. I realized that you kind of have to break down motivations, because it's almost like you kind of need to play chess now with our people, right? And sometimes people see things at front value. It's more like kind of like, you know, tiddlywinks or checkers or something, or Connect Four or whatever. I don't know. Like, and sometimes you have to understand that things take time in stages. So the idea is the statement, how can the statement collective black people have no friends be helpful, is because one thing you want to do is you always want to break down that no one's coming to save you. And even though you might have a one great, super fantastic, megally good friend or friends or whatever, as a collective, you tend to find that non-black people don't work for the betterment of black people generally. And it, just out of resource or reaction or whatever, you tend to find that they're always going to put whatever people group they're from first. Now, this is not a bad thing. This is actually a normal way to react. A normal way. So what I'm going to do is, let me check. Where's that one? Going to play. So how we can try to unpack this is we can break down certain scenarios, certain people groups, what happens. So, for example, you remember with a whole lot of Nigerians and Africans going to Ukraine, I believe it was. And so let's break it down. People going to Ukraine, they're spending money, they're trying to learn, trying to get good education in Ukraine, build up the economics of Ukraine, and also get learning for themselves. Now, as they went there, unfortunately, Russia tried to invade Ukraine, which wasn't nice. And a war broke out. Bombs are flying everywhere. Now, the Ukraine default, save Ukrainians, get the Ukrainians across the border, whatever, right? The other border people were happy to see them, whatever. However, they've told you that if you're not white, then you have to stay back until the public people are are saved, whatever. Now, unfortunately, the countries these brothers and sisters came from didn't really have political power, didn't really have any resources to get them back, and that comes down to our second thing of being collectively inadequate, and and it's like recognizing that so we can make better decisions. One of the perfect goals is wherever countries these brothers came from and sisters is to build up the resources in those countries so that they don't necessarily need to leave to get educated. You see. So that was always be something that we have to work on. But once again, what was demonstrated was the Ukraine put Ukrainians first, and Africans had to wait behind, the black people. And there was a hierarchy, definitely, right? Now, we look in America, you have all the brothers and they're saying, we want reparations, we want this kind of stuff. And then the Europeans and the white people get on call and say, no, we're not going to give you that. Yeah, that was so long ago. We don't have the money, and why you, and all this other good stuff they keep saying. Now, what you realize is as soon as Ukraine brought in the war, they're giving them money, billions, they're giving them tanks. Yeah, millions and tanks and stuff. Apparently, just the other day, they gave them a couple, 20 tanks, a bit more. Can't remember. Either way, they give them money and weaponry and stuff, right? So this shows you that they might, other people's needs or people within their own people group, they seem to resonate more with them when it comes to doing them favors. Now, the reason I say that because that was in America. However, here's what is going on as I saw recently in England. So let's listen to this and see if we can unpack it. This is Ukrainians living in the UK. What one particular family, I believe. This was where it.
We hadn't necessarily taken into consideration the cultural differences.
But those cultural differences weren't often talked about when Andrea signed up to the Homes for Ukraine scheme. She lives in a diverse part of Birmingham. After a week of staying there, her guest told her there were too many Muslims in the area.
We were quite shocked at how difficult she found different cultures.
She felt there were just too many Muslims.
Too many Muslims, too many people with different skin colours.
Her guest's son was enrolled into the local school, where the majority of children happened to be black and Asian.
Oh, really?
And then to just have her complain about the demographic of the school and going, well, he can't be safe there. There's not enough white kids, essentially. The majority of my neighbours are Muslims. A lot of them are Kashmiris or Pakistanis, Indians, and they're wonderful people. And you just felt if you just would sort of give them the time, perhaps we'd come to the same conclusion.
They both agreed to end the placement.
Right, so what we're showing you there was a lady, a family from Ukraine came fleeing war, bombs from Europeans from bombs at the country. And, despite that, when they saw non-white people, she mentioned black, Muslim, and Asian, they said, there was unease, you see. Riganis didn't want to live there anymore, was concerned that the school and the stuff the kids go to will not have enough white people because white people mean safe, even though in the context she came from, it meant invasion and bombs. But however, that's what I'm trying to tell you. When you look back into the war between Germany and England and America and this kind of stuff, remember black people who were there to fight for England weren't allowed to shoot the Germans in the First World War because it wasn't kind or correct for black people to kill Nazis at the time. I think it was Nazis. Yeah, Nazis and Germans. So this is what this goes on quite highly, and there is a lot of non-black people who think similar like so. And you have to remember that. And what's happening is they are putting their needs first, but obviously they're doing it in an unethical way by being the victims of unethical anti-black racism. We find ourselves in a collectively inadequate state, and we've been trained in subservience and subordinates. You see, and what happens is we got used to it so much. So you're going to find yourself that when you try to motivate black people to do for self, they will try to. You might find some self-sabotage because we've learned this. But the idea is to show all this collective data to show that actually most people look after themselves, but they do it in a negative way towards black people, while we can help ourselves in a positive way, help hurting no one else. You see. So that's why we're unpacking this statement. How can the statement collectively black people have no friends be helpful to black people? Because it keeps you focused. It breaks down the illusion that many brothers and sisters have that actually collectively non-black people like black people. The fact is nobody likes black people. Sometimes it's hard to hear that, but it should be good to hear that because it's true. And if you don't agree, join the line and prove me wrong. I always invite suspected anti-black racists when I come across them in the cyber world, and they never join it. If you wish to join in and defend your case, let us know. But I doubt that's the case. So that's one thing there. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to now break down to another concept of how the statement collectively black people have no friends could be helpful to black people. Now we're going to go to the land of America. Now, in America, unfortunately, you realize there was anti-black racism that motivated the Black Lives Matter movement, and then obviously to undermine that progress, there was many things that they had. Blue lives matter, white lives matter, queer lives matter, trans lives matter, gay lives matter, everyone lives matter. Asian lives matter. Everyone, but it was people said, well, you know what, we have to say all lives matter because they don't know. Everyone knows black people are mistreated, but yet when something comes that has the name black in it, there's always an automatic by remote control, by automation, self-sabotage, as well as outward sabotaging practices, unethical practices that happens to black people. Never nice. And one of the things, unfortunately, because of the COVID and this kind of stuff, there was this thing where people were allegedly blaming Asian people for the COVID, and they had the tag "Stop Asian Hate." We never got "Stop Black Hate." We never got "Stop White Hate." "Stop Blue Hate." It went, laws were passed that stop people from particularly harming Asians, but not black people in the land where a lot of it was actually built by black people, if not all. There's some claim. Now, let's this little thing that came on my live stream this morning. Just randomly, this is not real research. It just sometimes I'm gonna have a topic and there's so much plethora of content to back up what I'm saying. It just comes to me like a sign from the ancestors. Rewind.
Actually, it was Chinese immigrants and Black Americans who were considered the two groups who could not be assimilated.
All right, so there's two groups there that could be assimilated in the Americas: the Asians, which they call yellow, and the Africans, which they call black.
And so before the Chinese Exclusion Act and then after the act, often you would see Black and Chinese people being written out of their rights in the law. And in fact, the one group who didn't achieve citizenship under the 14th Amendment were Asian Americans, and they would have to sue again. But then a very early school desegregation case in Mississippi was a Chinese family suing not to have to put their kids in the black school.
Once again, like I said, I didn't research this thing to bring this correlation between the Ukrainians and the Chinese. It just came to me. Maybe it's an algorithm, because it could be. But I just did the two videos I saw this morning. I thought, that would be good for the show. To show what? To show that collectively black people have no friends. And remember, by remote control, people will hear that quote and they'll try to shut you down, and they'll try to use this very positive language in a negative way. And you go, and your response is, no, sir, you might be black person's best friends. However, whatever people group you come from doesn't work as a unit to help black people. If anything, it works as a unit to undermine black people. So we will stick with the quote because it's helpful, because we're easily deceived. You see, that's why black people very rarely, if at all, have any industry, because we are hired by others and we focus on others and build other lands and other things. But we don't tend to focus on ourselves or have black-owned stuff. So we have to make that an awareness thing, so we can train that into the youth, into the educated, into the synchronized, just so that we can have a concept that if you don't do it, it won't get done. Let's keep listening.
They weren't suing to end segregation, they were suing to be counted as white. So us not learning these histories, we do have these suspicions of each other. And I always tell my students, who does the narrative serve? Right? Who does the narrative benefit? And when you question that, then you begin to realize that there are powerful interests that don't want us to understand that history, that don't want us to understand our common struggle. And so we're over here fighting for crumbs and respect while the hierarchy is maintained and stays in place.
All right. There you go. Very interesting there. I think also, we covered before about, I forgot the names, but there was the Asian cop that shot, I think he got scared and shot in a hallway, and the bullet ricocheted and hit an innocent black man. And the Asian community in the States came out and say their thing was, how comes white men can kill black men or go to jail, but now you're trying to have this Chinese cop go to jail for killing a black man? So, a lot of this stuff will go on. Once again, that's collectively. You see, working as a collective. We had videos of that somewhere, but I don't know how to get it. But just ideas. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. So that is how the statement. How can the statement collectively black people have no friends be helpful to black people? That's why, because you have to constantly remind our community that a lot of us are waiting for others, and we're not suspicious. You should always be suspicious. You should always be concerned, because most, if not all, other people groups are very concerned when black people are around, and there's a hierarchy. And unfortunately, if you don't know it, you will be at the bottom. Once again, collectively, individually, you might show me one non-black person who loves you more than anything in the world. However, you cannot base your future safety on that one happy-go-lucky person who might like jazz or hip hop or bashment or reggae or Afrobeat or whatever era they like the food, jollof rice or moi moi or rice and peas or injera or you name it. You name it. You can't do that. That doesn't make sense. But you see, we have to really go slow because, unfortunately, as you realize when you watch me speaking in public, many black people don't know this. Unfortunately, many black people don't know that many of us have actually mastered the art of subservience, you see. And we need to unlearn these practices because they're not beneficial. That's right. So we now go, it's all intertwined, to the next topic, which is, let's click on that fantastic button that lets us see it. Da-da-da-da. Can the phrase, how does this help black people collectively, be helpful to black people collectively? So where does this come from? This is also the time, the first question. And it comes down to, you're going to be talking in public, you'll be talking to other people. And whenever someone will come with an idea. And the one thing you always remember is how does that help black people collectively? You see? So when they're talking, just go, okay, what phrase do I need? Oh, okay, so you're coming with an idea. How does that help black people collectively? So, for example, you see me always promoting black love. What is black love? Constructive black man, constructive black woman, having constructive black family. Why is that? Because your family is your first economic base. Families network around families and create communities. And also, this is how black people are produced, right? Also, if you become wealthy, you circulate within your family first, and hopefully then you circulate to other communities and to other people in your community, other industries that's been built in your community, and you try to circulate the money so it gets to as many brothers and sisters as possible before it exits out into other communities. This is an old strategy that most people used to apply. They applied this back in America in a place called Greenwood in Wall Street. It's a very successful method. So it's something that we do, but you have to start with being around black people or having a black family to do this. It just makes it automatically easy. They say your wife is your first business partner and your husband is your first business partner, all that good stuff. So, but when you do it, I'll remember the subservient community in amongst black people, and also the unethical non-black people. They will try to make loving black women and loving black men wrong. You got to understand that destroying a black family is an act of war. That's been done very good against us. That's why when we talk, we will be the ones to argue against it. We will always start conversations with, well, why can't I be for a non-black person? This kind of stuff, right? This is collectively inadequate. Once again, if you choose not to be for a black sister or black brother, so be it. But that should not be what you lead a conversation, especially when we're discussing black Betterment. You see, but because we're inadequate, we don't know this, and we have to. That's why we have to go slowly and go through it. Okay, I'm getting what you're saying, right? So the reason how I'm getting there is the phrase, how does this help black people collectively? Well, you have to create a scenario, don't you? You have to go, okay, I'm in there promoting black love because we understand it's one of the bases of how black people progress. And then someone goes, oh, a minute, what about if I want to marry a woman from Germany, a European woman, just say, for example, right? Oh, well. And you go, okay, well, hold on. Let me think. What did Raven say? I'll say, how does this help black people collectively? Then he's, oh, well, how does that help? I don't know. So once again, it's a non-factor. We don't need to discuss your desires for non-black women or non-black men or non-black people. You can have that, but best not to keep that in a black Betterment forum or any discussion. When black people talk about the importance of black love, don't try to combo breaker them. Just let them speak in it, right? And how do you do it? You do it very calmly and kindly. Big up, brother IC3. You do it by saying, how does this help black people collectively? You see? in every single scenario, we are trying to have black people work with black people. If a black person or a non-black person tries to combo breaker it and interrupt it with some kind of behavior pattern, that means you're not focusing on self or the community building, then you can ask whatever activity they're trying to push forward, you say, but how does this help black people collectively, right? Something we're going to unpack as well. I think on the next page, we're going to really unpack it a bit more. And that's something we really need to think about and concentrate on, brothers and sisters. And that is non-black people. They always there's a plethora of black activists and people who do work that is beneficial to black people, or they try to be before it gets sabotaged and this kind of stuff. Now, the thing is, what you tend to find is non-black people will always quote a certain type of black activist, but never the other type. And when you look at the history, it's usually the person who's and this is not all the time. It's usually the person who's obviously more integrated in ideas, more. This is good. Question: how does this help black people collectively? Good question. Yeah, because what I'm doing now helps black people collectively is by understanding the shortcomings and challenges. You'll realize how you're being deceived into not focusing your effort and energy into improving black people's realities. You see, that's how it is. But let's move on. So what I was saying there is, you tend to find that non-black people will correlate and go to more with the black activists who have more of like an integrated kind of mindset, more of a like everyone all in together, don't mistreat anyone, turn the other cheek, all this kind of stuff, right? While the people say do for yourself, people have to be accountable for what they've done, held accountable, don't trust anyone who's mistreating you, this kind of stuff. These kind of people get pushed aside, you see. So that's why if we look at the screen at the moment, if you have a screen, if you're not just watching dishes and just listening, we have 6 brothers and sisters. And obviously we have, on the first phase, we have Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Now I ask you, for all the non-black people, for the most part, who gets mentioned more? Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X? Don't rush to say it. Feel free to say it. You got 7 seconds while I check my phone just to make sure I'm missing any more messages, which I am. Let's see. Cool. Oh, yeah. Excellent. Fantastic. Yeah, I'll get back to that after the show. It won't be a long show, so it'll be fine. Yeah, so, guys, if your 1 minute is up. The question is, from non-black people in your lifetime, who do you hear quotes from more? Do they quote more Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X? Now, this is not a slight on any brothers. These are good brothers. Okay, so Asian is saying Martin Luther King. All right, so do we have any others who agree, disagree? Where in your lifetime, as you're watching TV or you're talking to friends, who do non-black people quote the most? Let me know. Vote with your fingers. Just type in MLK or Mr. X if you have time. If not to worry. I'm sure someone will do it for you or not. But either way, while you're pondering, what you will find, especially if you check out many of my debates, whatever, in Speaker's Corner, you'll find that, yes, they will always jump to Martin Luther King Jr. Why? Because even though he did say he said a lot of good stuff, but he did also say a lot of stuff of integration nature and all come together, hold each other hands, and this kind of stuff. And that's always going to be more favorable than do for yourself, hire yourself, build your own community, you see? One funny quote, or not funny quote, one interesting fact that we should re-unpack is in America, the Wall Street, a lot of people always say that it was miscegenation, a black man being for a white woman or in some kind of capacity that caused Tulsa, Homer to be bombed by the government of the Ku Klux Klan, and that is true. There's much truth to this. But it wasn't the actual. They say it wasn't the actual reason why it stopped actually thriving, because the banks didn't actually give it their loans, not loans, was it the insurance? They didn't. They denied the insurance. It was they scammed the black people, which was very common at them. So black people built things back up. They say what actually destroyed Black Wall Street was integration, because once again, when you're collectively inadequate and you're naturally subservient, as soon as the opportunity comes for you to work for a person you think is better, European, you'll do it. and that's one of the challenges that they had, and everyone started setting up their their businesses or going to European businesses, and then obviously it just shut down. So that's what I'm saying, that we're in the two brothers on the thing, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Let's read some quotes now. This is quote for quote, right? Let's read one from Martin Luther King. I have a dream that one day little black boys and girls will be holding hands with little white boys and girls. They love that quote. You see it every time. And every time you talk about black love or black economics and all this kind of stuff, they'll reach for that. Boom, boom, boom. Now they'll throw it in your face. Now let's read one from brother Malcolm X. Brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell you that I charge the white man. I charge the white man with being the greatest murderer on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest kidnapper on earth. There is no place in this world that this man can go and say he created peace and harmony. Everywhere he goes, he creates havoc. Everywhere he goes, he creates destruction. Now, that's either true or it's not true, okay? As it pertains to the time zone and the history that Malcolm X was living through. I don't know if they want to quote that, but it would be quite beneficial for black people to know that if they didn't. Now, let's now move on to the next phase. Let's look to Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela. Who do they quote more? Do they quote Nelson Mandela or Winnie Mandela? Two very important brothers and sisters there. They put the fighting in South Africa, that is. And they did their thing. Unfortunately, now Nelson Mandela was jailed for, was it 20 years or 27 years? I want to say 20 years. I should know this, but maybe I don't. Shame on me. And obviously, Winnie Mandela kept the fight going. She was arrested herself many times. She was tortured and beaten, as she said in her book. But yeah, so let me know who you think might be quoted more by the non-black person, Nelson Mandela or Winnie Mandela. That's right. All right, let's see who it is. You probably might be able to work it out. Now, Nelson Mandela was in jail for 20 years, and when he came out, he became the president. It's never been seen before. But let's see the kind of things he was saying at the time. He was saying, it is not our diversity which divides us. It is not our ethnicity or religion or culture that divides us. Since we have achieved our freedom, there can only be one division amongst us, between those who cherish democracy and those who do not. You see? Very nice quote that people use. When he came out, I remember a speech where he says, what did he say? He said something, I should download it, but he said, what did he say? He said something about, not mistreating people, not judging people by color, this kind of stuff. And this is important. But really what you want after being mistreated for so long is recognition of the pain, reparation for the pain. There's also dedication to the people group most mistreated to fix that. That should always be the main thing. Let's now read something from Winnie Mandela. It's only when all black groups join hands and speak with one voice that we shall be bargaining force, which will decide its own destiny. Very true. That's what Black Betterment is. It's black people helping black people, black issues, you see. So you don't get too many quotes from Winnie Mandela, what I see, but you get more from Nelson Mandela. Once again, both brothers and sisters, they are very important, as are Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. But you have to understand the science that's being played and the techniques, to use certain brothers and sisters' words of a certain nature more so to highlight a particular agenda, and that agenda doesn't necessarily work in black people's collective best interests. Don't forget that word. How does this help black people collectively? That's very helpful. There it is. Now, last but not least, W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey. I mean, I definitely don't hear any quotes of Marcus Garvey from non-black people, if at all. But I definitely hear a few from W.E.B. Du Bois. Now, both Pan-African brothers, both, one, W.E.B. Du Bois, his strategy was more so creating a kind of elite class of intelligent brothers and sisters who would then, I guess, lead the way and have trickle down economics, all this kind of stuff. Well, Marcus Garvey focused more on the everyday black person and was saying everyone should focus all their time building up black stuff, black economics, black owned, black communities. Do not put your money outside your community. Circulate your dollars, pounds, and rupees and all that kind of stuff. So this was, but they did clash heads a few times, and I don't think they ever were really on the same page. They were on the same destiny, but not on the same page. But anyway, let's read some quotes, shall we? So W.E.B. Du Bois, I believe that all men, black, brown, and white, are brothers. Yeah, that's a good quote. It's true. Yeah, it's good stuff. And let's have Marcus Messiah Garvey now. He said, "Africans for the Africans, at home and abroad." So what I'm saying is, all these brothers and sisters are very important brothers. They do constructive works, but when you realize that the non-black people are pushing one particular more than the others, this just from my research, you're probably better to go for the other. You're probably better if there's two brothers and sisters and they end up competing for the same space, and non-black people are pushing one over the other, go for the other. Because I very rarely see black people who are in the public space who talk for black betterment, particularly black people and black people who get pushed by others. But that actually is the best solution for all challenges we face. For like a good 89% to 97%, that black people helping black people is generally a great solution for that. But yet the allies that a lot of brothers and sisters talk about never ever say that. What they do is they wait when we talk and then they interrupt and say, no, don't do that. Do that with us, and we should be able to do it and join hands and all that kind of stuff. And I'm saying this, please be aware of this. Hopefully, Brother Raven, myself, I've tried to give you the game just so you can see it, and I demonstrate it, and I give you examples. But, there you go. So let's not forget that. So that is, can the phrase, how does this help black people collectively, be helpful to black people? That's when you want to start using that, you see. Now, family, I've put the link and I've pinned it in the group. Now, like I said, I'm kind of doing quite a lot of work now. I'm jumping in, doing things, downloading stuff and jumping off. At some point, I'm going to really change up the format of the show and have more of a guest-driven thing and stuff. But sadly, because my time is never really with me, sometimes I find it hard. I am in a lot of other collective groups helping out. So time is, but I have a commitment to have a show, 1 week a show that all black people are invited to come into to discuss strategies of how we can improve black people collectively. And it's just for black people. However, we do invite non-black people as a case study. If they maybe if I meet one and they're practicing anti-black racism and we want to study what they're doing, we might invite them on, or just a debate about something. Who knows? I don't know. But by all means, family, the link is in there. Feel free to jump in. The discussion there has been, we remember Martin Delany. That's what we discussed today. How can the statement, collectively, black people have no friends, be helpful to black people? And then, last but by no least, can the phrase, how does this help black people collectively, be helpful to black people collectively? You see? Now, hopefully, in a record-breaking time, look, within an hour. So it goes by so quick, but not quick enough at times. Now, I'm probably going to be done by 11, but this is a community show. So if you guys want to jump on and carry on, we shall do so. But if not, we shall end it then. But while you ponder and think about these things we've been saying, and one if you want to jump in, we shall play the last 4 minutes of the Brother Delany's documentary. For those who don't know, Brother Delany was seen as one of the first black nationalists, first Pan-Africanist, very proud African. He knew his roots and what particular country came from. He was in America, and he was one of the first. I think he was the first black general, technically in the Civil War in America. At first, they didn't want to allow this to happen, but through his negotiation, and also he ended up doing it because the idea it was to fight for freedom. That's what he believed, and that's Brother Mike. Because it's the last 5 minutes of the show. Last time we checked, he just made a newspaper, which I put a link in there, called the North Star. And it was an anti-slavery newspaper promoting that and all around the Americas, and I think even Caribbean and England. Canada. I have to check that out. I think, and that's what I'm saying. Taking control, black owned, and having an agenda in the magazine. So showing some good game there. So let's kind of listen to the last 4 minutes, and then we might call it a rap. Let's listen.
Though little known to the world today.
I just started beginning. What's wrong with this thing, man? Hold on. Was it there? Let's see if we can find that. There we go. There's the newspaper. Voila. So we're at the black. No, that's his wife. Wonderful wife. Had 11 children. Unfortunately, only 7 survived to adult. And there's Frederick Darkick, and I assume that's his wife, but maybe not. I don't know. Is that a white one? I know he was married to a white one later on, which we should unpack at another time. Let's press play.
Harrison, a white abolitionist, journalist, and editor who often reprinted Delany's articles in his own paper, The Liberator. Delany joined forces with Douglas and Garrison, with whom Douglas later broke off his friendship, and together they launched a new 4-page paper called The North Star. It enjoyed a circulation of 4,000, with subscribers in the United States, Europe, and the West Indies. In fact, it became the most influential black anti-slavery newspaper of the pre-Civil War period. Named for the North Star seen in the night sky, which runaway slaves used as a guide to make their way to freedom, the paper was co-edited by Douglas and Delany and was published in Rochester, New York. While the two did not always agree, both men personally financed the paper for a time, until their resources were drained. At that point, Delany ended his partnership and returned to the medical field by reopening his cupping and leeching practice. He also pursued formal medical studies in order to advance his career, but that valiant effort met with great opposition. Of this period, Levine writes, Delany attended Harvard Medical School for several months, but was dismissed because of his color. Outraged by Harvard's racism and the Compromise of 1850, in 1852 he published The Condition, Elevation, Immigration, and Destiny of the Colored People of the United States. It was a book-length treatise that criticized the United States for failing to grant equal rights to blacks, and which ended with Delany calling for black people to immigrate en masse and establish a new nation elsewhere, such as in the West Indies or Central and South America. He would later shift his focus to West Africa for such an enterprise, following an exploratory journey to that part of the continent in 1859. There, he hoped to set up a Black Israel. A few years prior to that, Delany helped to organize a convention related to the subject of immigration. It was held in Cleveland, Ohio, and the gathered delegates, over 100 in number, elected him president pro tem. In 1856, Delany moved his family to Chatham in Ontario, Canada, where he resumed his medical practice. 2 years later, he organized the African Civilization Society and spent a year traversing Central Africa's Niger Valley in search of a suitable site for his immigration enterprise. Upon his return to Canada, he was filled with a new zeal, with his heart and aim centered on Africa. But the United States was on the brink of civil war, and Delany felt the pull of duty to his fellow black countrymen. This drew him back to U.S. soil. In his book, The Negro Civil War, author James N. McPherson says of this phase in Delany's life, in January 1863, the War Department authorized Governor John Andrew of Massachusetts to raise a regiment of Negro soldiers in his state. Massachusetts' Negro population was too small to fill up a regiment, so Andrew called upon the wealthy abolitionist George L. Stearns to form a committee of prominent citizens to raise money for the recruitment of men for the 54th Massachusetts Regiment from all over the North. Stearns.
Well, listen to the last 2 minutes of We Remember Martin Delany. That's his life. As a quick 2-minute recap. And then we're going to go into hashtag, and then we'll end the show if no one jumps in. There's 2 more minutes.
Hired several Negro leaders as recruiting agents. Among them was Martin Delany. His son, Toussaint Louverture Delany, named for the leader of the Haitian Revolution.
We got there, the brother named his son after Toussaint Louverture, the French Revolution leader.
Also signed on to fight with the first colored regiment formed in the North, that being the 54th Massachusetts Infantry. The ravages of war exacted their heavy toll as time passed, and by 1865, Delany moved his family to Wilberforce, Ohio. That year, he was commissioned as Major of the 104th U.S. Colored Infantry by President Lincoln. After Lincoln met with Delany, the president reportedly wrote his Secretary of War, Edwin M. Stanton, that Delany was a most extraordinary and intelligent man. While the commission made Delany the highest-ranking black officer to lead troops, the Civil War ended before he led them in actual combat. Delany was then posted to Hilton Head, South Carolina, where he worked with the Freedmen's Bureau, the government agency that helped former slaves adjust to post-slavery life. Around this time, Delany, ever the black advocate, shocked his white superiors by declaring that those ex-slaves had a right to own land. He was mustered out of the Freedmen's Bureau and later retired from the army, but he remained in South Carolina, where his family joined him. They lived there for a considerable portion of his remaining life, during which he was politically active in the state. Delany ran for the South Carolina Lieutenant Governor's seat as an independent Republican, but lost. He also served as a trial justice. Indeed, Martin Delany was many things, but foremost he was proud of his race, regardless of their struggles and despite the oppression they endured in a country that failed to see them as citizens. His love for his people was evident in his espousal of black nationalism, which was his driving force. His zeal for the black cause, coupled with his brutal criticism of the United States and many of his institutions, have tarnished his legacy, leaving others like Frederick Douglass leagues ahead of him in terms of historical prominence. But Martin Delany, say what you will of him, left a sizable footprint in the sands of history.
There you go, Brother Martin Delany. Excellent. Excellent. Now we're going to end by we've got one more film we're going to cover. I forgot this. So last week we asked a question. Let me sit up. There you go. Yeah, louder. Yeah. So we asked a question. Can we with all the challenges that Black Lives Matter faces, can we? Let me quickly skip past this. Can we? If we had to rebrand, what would we do? And we were talking about how with most black things, it kind of goes somewhere else. It becomes gay life matter and all lives matter, which their lives do matter, of course. But once again, it's the kind of awareness of bogarting and not ever allowing black people to settle on an idea. And I was expanding before you can even unpack. So we said, okay, what if we had a concept, and then we said, okay, well, we understand that Black Lives Matter is black people talking to non-black people, while Black Lives Matter rebranding could be black people talking to black people. So then we said, okay, what if we were to break it down into initialism? And we had Black Lives Matter 2 being black love, black institution, black vitality, black economics, and black synchronization. You see? That's what we unpacked this yesterday. And then I brushed a quick logo together of what that might look like. And then I think some brothers came on, Brother Kel was then, he said, what about an idea where we focus on the word synchronization and black and all that kind of stuff, synchronization. So I said, okay, cool, let's try another idea as well. So I haven't done any designs, I think, but I have thought of a hashtag idea. Where is it? And it's just me, I did it in 5 minutes, but black and synchronized. Now, we always push this word synchronize. And what synchronized meaning, you practice and promote unity and utility with black people in all areas of people activity whenever it's constructively possible. So, you're doing constructive things with black people to practice black betterment. So we're saying, could the word black and synchronized be a hashtag? Could you see a picture and you see a black person starting a black banker, marrying a black woman, or whatever it might be, who knows, right? And then you just hashtag black and synchronized. It's an idea. The idea is to train black people to think of black people, you see. The idea is to consciously do things that's beneficial to black people collectively. I used to think that it would happen automatically, but it actually doesn't. The opposite happens automatically. So shame on me twice when I was a kid. That's why now you have to really be like, you have to lay crumbs out. You have to say what you're doing, why you're doing it, and explain the start, middle, and end of it. You see, because people won't necessarily get the nuance. And that's why when we start this fantastic, megally good show that's dedicated for black people, we start with the freestyle statements. And we'll go again, this is very important. It's when it comes to working as a collective with only black people, what matters that benefit black issues, black progression, and black ownership, voice is going, black people are collectively inadequate. That's right. Knowing that when it comes to working as a team, we are underdeveloped. We don't really value it and we don't execute it. And that is one of the challenges we face because other people groups do value this stuff. And we are seen more as commodities as well as workers and work labor for those communities. So it's about changing that. And that's why you have to recognize that, tell people, unfortunately, we recognize that black people currently are collectively inadequate. And if you disagree, show me an industry that black people run and create. Very few, if any, none, right? And the idea is let us control industry. Let us teach our children about technology, algorithms, get them in that way, be constructive, let's any kind of content we do, let's make it black owned, this uplifting, this kind of stuff. Methods, strategies, automatic, yeah? There you go. What's the next one? Individually, you might find a non-black person who shows some kind of cruelty towards black people. However, collectively, black people have no friends. Why is that important? Because a lot of black people around other people, and we are very subservient. You see, very subservient. We've learned this for many years, and but by knowing that, from a collective standpoint, we have no friends, it will keep us on the track. Very important. Last but by no means least, constructive black man with constructive black woman makes a constructive black family. What happens? Knowing how to produce black people is important. Also, understanding that uh, you do things as a team, and whoever's in your household is a lifelong journey of constructive interactions. So everything you do should benefit the person in your household, and if they're black, that's extra good. And then what happens if something happens to you, your black partner inherits what you're doing. So constructive black man, constructive black woman to constructive black family is very important. At first, I used to ignore this because I thought, we could get away with it, but I just realized that actually being collectively inadequate, that's probably why we never push forward the black love concept. But it's very crucial. If we find that black men are not picking black women, that's because we're collectively inadequate and we have fallen for it. And you tend to find that the majority of black men, especially in Europe, will, at a high rate, will never want to be with a black woman because we've learned that it's not important. Now we have to unlearn that. Remember, I only tell you things that through research I realize is helpful to black people. These are not personal things that I'm really doing backflips over. Whatever the data shows is what we must promote. You see? What can we do that is beneficial to the collective group? You see? And hopefully you can be training your children the same way. But we're going to try to put things in a more digestible way, pamphlets, PDFs, things that can be used much more constructively. Now, family, we've hit the 11 p.m. mark, and I have some things to do. Now, by all means, you guys come first. So if you guys want to continue, jump on. I shall continue. But if not, I will end the show there. You were fantastic. And next week we shall continue with what we're doing. Please tell your friends to follow Black Betterment Broadcast. But it's going to be a short show today. So I'm tired already. It's crazy, right? So have a good one. And remember, we start the time when we greet people with the word Black Betterment. This is the trend we want to start. Once again, let's break it down before I go. By saying these words as a greeting, you're reminding people what you're doing. Also, onlookers will go, what's that about? They'll be intrigued. That consistency is our thing. Black betterment is how you greet other black people, specifically, because you're saying black people helping black people on black issues. Once again, let's unpack it. The reason why the lifestyle, let's break down the lifestyle, let's show it, of black betterment, as this show promotes, is important, is because within the concept, the idea of the lifestyle is your liberation, meaning you cannot fail with the concept, meaning we are helping each other. And if someone is not within the black community and wants to join this, they can't. It's not called that because that's the challenge. The challenge is us being subservient and not doing for self. Kuji Chakalia, self-determination, all that good stuff, right? So within the lifestyle is your liberation. Within the lifestyle is your betterment. Yeah? If you're going to lose with your own people. Don't lose alone. So at least we can make an attempt. Anyway, that's a fantastic show. Until next week, my people, Black Betterment. Hope you have a good, constructive day. Raise your kids and don't take drugs. Blah, blah, blah. Good one. There you go.